We'll break down Nick Lodolo's awesome start, try and predict 2026 ADP, and preview the weekend on our last Kokomo Friday of the season.
Alcantara, Soroka, you look so good in polka. Peralta, Manoa, bounce back for Aarondola. Giolito, Castillo, Yoshida, Mosu,
Happy Kokomo Friday and welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on September 26th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White. Today on the show, we'll break down Nick Lodolo's amazing start. We'll try to predict some 2026 ADP, preview the weekend for those still playing for something, if you're in a daily lineup league, whatever it might be, and much more. Scott, we made it. Final regular season podcast of the year. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling wistful, Frank. And yeah, it's good. Now, I don't want to give people the wrong idea. It's not the last podcast of the year. Far from it. We're here all off season. Oh, yeah. Sometimes I get these messages from people thanking us for helping them win the title or whatever, which, is nice because I don't, really the credit goes to them and they're kind enough to share with us. But the way they word it sometimes makes me feel like they're abandoning us until next March. It's like, no, we're here. We're here. We're going to go twice a week each of the next 3 months. And it's going to be fun. I feel like the off-season podcasts are generally more fun than the in-season podcasts because we're not, there's not this like daily grind, this push to get through everything that happened in a timely manner, and we can kind of let the conversation breathe a little more and go off the beaten path a little some too. So I think it's a lot of fun. I think, probably if you're listening to us now after the final week has already started, you're the sort of people who know this already and are going to continue listening to us in the off season. But just in case you're not, you should.
Yes. So Scott, professional salesman too. I love that pitch right there. Yeah. We'll be here 2 times per week throughout the off season from October through December. And then once we get to January, we'll ramp back up a little bit. And then February, it's a full go. We'll be, 5 days a week by that point as well. But we're going to do a bunch of, recapping the season. We'll do an award show, give out some grades, early rankings, way too early mock drafts. We're planning to do a live mock draft from live podcast, from First Pitch Arizona as well, Chris and I. So that'll be a lot of fun, and obviously reacting to all the, playoffs and off-season happenings and, hot stove and all that fun stuff. So it's going to be fun. But, Scott, let's jump in. We still have stuff to talk about.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
All right, let's begin with Nick Lodolo, who was amazing against the Pirates. 6 1/3 shutout innings here, 2 hits, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts with 27 whiffs on 80 pitches. I would venture to say this is maybe the best Nick Lodolo has ever looked. He had 15 of those 27 whiffs on his curveball, 6 on the fastball, 5 on the changeup. He had everything working in this one. He was struggling a bit since coming off the IL. This was his first quality start in 5 outings since coming back. But, Scott, he wraps up a very serviceable and solid season with a 3.30 ERA, 106 whip, right at a strikeout per inning. Walks, 2 walks per 9, under 2 walks per 9. It's just been a good, solid all-around season for Nick Lodolo, who needed it. This was, the best season of his career yet.
Yeah, and I really like what we've seen from him his last 2 starts, especially because even though you'd have to call this Nick Lodolo's best season, I feel like he's been more dominant in the past. The first 26 starts of his career, Nick Lodolo had 11.6 K per nine. Now, those were injury-plagued seasons, especially 2023. So it was always, it's not like he felt like a finished product. It was always this theoretical Nick Lodolo outcome that we were looking for. And so he has his healthiest season so far. And you said he's basically right at a strikeout per inning. So the bat missing wasn't quite to the level we once dreamed it could be. And the curveball, its effectiveness has kind of waxed and waned. It's clearly the key pitch to Nick Lodolo's whole arsenal. But there have been times when it's been more effective, less effective. Its whiff rate this year has been below 40% overall, which you go back and look at the earlier years for Nick Lodolo, it was more like mid 40%. So it didn't seem like the best it's ever been. But these last two starts for Nick Lodolo, you mentioned he had 27 swinging strikes in this one. And remember the previous start, he had 20. The overall result wasn't great, but 20 whiffs on 94 pitches. I mean, that's an incredible rate. So closing out the season with a lot more missed bats, that curveball playing especially well. We now have some evidence that he can stay healthy and throw more than 150 innings as he's done now this year. And I would say, I have a lot more hope for Nick Lodolo than I do Andrew Abbott or Matthew Boyd, who's kind of stumbled to the finish line here. A reason I bring those two up, these are all lefties who command really well. Nick Lodolo's walk rate this year, 1.7 per nine. That's incredible. But I feel like his stuff is better. I feel like his strikeout upside is way higher than those two. And based on the way he's closed out the season, I might be drafting him ahead of those two. If it looks like I'll need to pay that much to draft Lodolo, if that's the way to make sure I get him, I would rather have him than those two.
Yeah, I think that's the way that I'm leaning right now as well. I know Andrew Abbott, it always feels like we kind of just poo-poo him, but he's a good pitcher, but he's just unconventional in the ways that we normally evaluate pitching. I think Abbott is a fine pitcher. I do think Lodolo has a little bit more upside, at least in terms of strikeouts and things like that. So, I would agree with taking Lodolo ahead of those other lefties that you just mentioned. One lefty who hasn't been as good, actually got bombed here on Thursday, Shota Imanaga. What is going on?
It was real bad against the Mets. He gave up 8 runs in 5 2/3 innings. I feel bad because I told people to start him, and I told people not to start Framber Valdez, at least if they could help it. And he bounced back very nicely after a rough 2-month stretch, but we'll get to him later. Shota Imanaga was terrible. 2 home runs contributed to those 8 runs he allowed against the Mets. And that makes it 12 home runs he's allowed in his final 6 starts. 3.1 home runs per 9 is what that rate comes out to. Half of that rate would be bad. Half of that rate would be a bad home run rate. It would be about what Imanaga's home run rate was last year. So clearly he's gotten destroyed by the long ball down the stretch. And this was the worry for Imanaga, even as his rookie season was playing out. Of course, he avoided having a stretch like this. But you compare 2025 overall numbers to 2024, gave up harder contact, gave up an even higher fly ball rate, significantly higher. It was already high last year at about 45%. It was more like 55% this year. So between the harder contact and the higher fly ball rate, Imanaga became that much more vulnerable to home runs. And now he's finishing the ERA with the year with basically a 4 ERA. The whip is still great, but this is a pitcher that feels more like a specialist heading into 2026, I think, than like a high-end contributor that you're going to want to pay a premium for.
Mm-hmm. And I did want to point out, he faced the Mets here in this start and, again, gave up 8 runs, including 2 homers. His worst start last year also came against the Mets. He gave up 10 earned runs over 3 innings with 3 homers allowed. So clearly the Mets see him very well. There has been some turnover. Obviously, Juan Soto wasn't on last year's team, but Lindor, Alonso, a lot of the key cogs were also in the Mets lineup last season. So they see Imanaga extremely well, but you're right. That doesn't account for the other 5 starts he's made recently where, he's given up 12 total home runs over his last 6. He just hasn't looked right all season. I know he missed a month and a half with a hamstring injury. I wonder if, perhaps that has lingered, or maybe he was dealing with it even further, before that to start the year. It just seemed like he was never right this season. So I'm not going to completely rule out the chance that he could bounce back a little bit next season. But obviously his ADP will be significantly lower than what it was entering this year.
373 is what his ERA actually finishes at. I said it was basically 4. That was a bit of an exaggeration, but 373. Something to keep in mind with Imanaga also, he's 32.
Yeah.
He was a rookie officially last year, so I don't think anybody was thinking he was a 22-year-old rookie last year, but he's probably even older than most people are thinking. 32, he's clearly on the downswing, and this was a big step back in terms of all the dominance measures, basically. Whiff rate, strikeout rate. He went from, he went from exactly a K per 9 last year to 7.3 per 9 this year.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the harder contact, the increased fly ball rate. It seems like a lot of warning signs here for Shota Imanaga.
Maybe this is obvious based on how they're finishing the season here, but who do you think will be drafted higher next year, Nick Lodolo or Shota Imanaga?
Is it obvious?
No,
because I don't feel like. Yeah, I mean, I guess probably Nick Lodolo. He's got the 3.30 ERA. He's got the 106 WHIP. It doesn't feel like there was ever a time this year where people were salivating over Nick Lodolo, and Imanaga. He entered the year as a consensus top 15 starting pitcher, right? So he has more cachet, I feel like, in fantasy circles. But I think when everybody digs into the numbers this offseason, all the people whose rankings drafters take seriously are going to have Lodolo ahead, would be my guess.
All right, the updated postseason picture. Both the Blue Jays and Yankees won here on Thursday night, so they remain tied atop the AL East. The Blue Jays own the tiebreaker, so they would win the division if it ended today, but we'll see how the weekend goes. The Tigers beat the Guardians, so they are back to a tie at the top of the AL Central. The Guardians own the tiebreaker there. The Dodgers won and clinched the NL West. The Astros won and remain 1 game behind the Tigers for the final AL wildcard spot. And both the Mets and Reds won. The Mets remain the final NL wildcard team. The Reds are 1 game behind. The D-backs actually lost, so they are 2 games behind with 3 games to play. Doesn't seem very likely there for the Arizona D-backs. Big thanks to everybody who supported us this year, whether it was listening to this podcast, watching on YouTube, consuming articles, rankings, everything else that we put on the site. You make all of this possible. I don't want to, get too cheesy, corny, or anything like that. But, we obviously appreciate all of the support and everything that you have provided us this season. Reminder that next week we're down to 2 pods per week. We'll be live Monday and Wednesday nights on YouTube, and the audio podcast will be in your feed Tuesday and Thursday mornings. And thanks to those watching live, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Let's take a break. We'll be back right after this.
You can't count on Derek's tong skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount+.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's go over the news and notes. And Trea Turner will not return Friday. Manager Rob Thompson doesn't know whether Turner will be back this weekend at all. So that sounds pretty pessimistic compared to updates that we got earlier in the week. They still think that he'll be ready to go for the wild card round, but perhaps we don't see Trea Turner at all this weekend and the rest of the regular season. Brian Wu played a light catch on Thursday. He left his last start with pectoral inflammation. Sounds like he's trending in the right direction and hopefully is ready to go for a playoff series whenever that gets started for them. Zach Gallen was pushed from Thursday to Friday due to illness/fatigue. Jeremy Pena has missed 4 straight with a left oblique strain. Craig Counsell said Cade Horton is a go and is on track, but there are areas of concern in Horton's rib area. Weird update. Probably weird the way I wrote it, but I think I wrote
there are areas
within.
There are areas of concern within the rib area.
Yes, yeah, whatever that means. It's a weird update. It sounds good and bad at the same time. I don't know what this means.
Is it? Are we like using 2 different definitions of area? Like areas of concern, meaning like, aspects of concern with that area of the body, like that physical area of the body. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that Cade Horton's somebody you need to start this weekend. Bottom line, even if he does pitch, we're talking 4 innings maybe.
Yeah. I think they're more so, I guess they just need to get him right for a playoff series, right? Like I guess he would be one of their pitchers to go, right? Unless I'm forgetting someone, but obviously he's been so good in the second half. So they need him to be right. Jackson Holliday underwent an MRI on his injured knee on Thursday. Samuel Basayo was out of the lineup, but hopes to return Friday. He was hit on the right hand by a pitch on Wednesday. Jose Barrios was placed in the IL with right elbow inflammation. Yandy Diaz left Thursday's game with right groin tightness and is day-to-day. Nick Lodolo, should have mentioned this earlier. He was actually pulled from Thursday's start in the 7th inning due to a right groin injury. So we'll see. It really only matters if the Reds make the playoffs, and Lodolo's wasn't going to pitch again the rest of the regular season anyway. But I feel like he was on the IL with a groin thing earlier this season or something similar. So we'll see.
I can check that to be sure.
Nolan Arenado said he's willing to expand his list of teams he would approve a trade to this offseason. And I'm still surprised that he voided a trade to the Astros last offseason. I don't think that Arenado is going to find a much better situation than that at this point in his career.
I think he overestimated his worth, which happens.
Yeah.
Nick Lodolo did not miss time with a groin injury this year. You may have been thinking of Hunter Green.
Okay. Sonny Gray also said that he will definitely consider waiving his no trade clause this offseason. So perhaps changes are coming here for the St. Louis Cardinals. It does feel like they're trending more into a youth movement, and they've got some pitching prospects coming their way. So we shall see what happens with the Cardinals this offseason. All right, Scott, let's play a little game here. Over, under. Where do you think the 2026 ADP winds up on these players? So I think I have, 7 or 8 players listed here. Freddie Freeman, 2 for 3 with a double dong. He had 3 RBI in that game as well. Weird season for Freeman. He was awesome through May. He was terrible in June and July. And then he was great again from August on, hitting 286 with 12 homers, 32 RBI, 4 steals, and OPS up around 900 for the final 2 months of the season. Over under 36.5, Scott. So basically, does Freeman fall into the 4th round, or do you think he's a top 3 round player in 12-team leagues next season?
I think over. Because he's only my 7th ranked first baseman for next year. And I only have 2 going in the top 24. So am I going to have 5 in round 3? Doubtful.
Oh, yeah.
Doubtful. The last 2 months, he's hit more than half of his home runs this year. So he's doing his best to salvage what had been a pretty underwhelming season to start out. And you have to wonder if a year removed from ankle surgery, Freddie Freeman might be able to recapture some of what he's lost. But he will be, he's 36 now. I'm trying to remember when his birthday is. He's 36 now, though. He's getting up there. And the last 2 years on StatCast look a lot different than all the years that came before them. Still good, but not so in the red. More like an expected batting average of 275 and a slug of 470 than an expected batting average of 310 and a slug of 540, So I think, given that he's going to be another year older, given that this is a 2-year trend now for Freeman, I think he's below that top tier at first base. I'm kind of tiering him more with Josh Naylor and Vinny Pasquantino than with Alonso, Olsen, Harper, Devers, which I'm kind of on the fence about, even, with this 2-homer game, seeing how he's been closing out this season. It's like, well, he still plays a lot. He's still in a lineup that's going to lead to a lot of runs in RBI. He's still going to be a safer bet. He's not a lock to hit 300 anymore, but he's a lock to hit 280 probably. And that's more than you could say for most first basemen. But I can't rank him higher than 7th. Even if I can tier him with Devers and Harper and Olsen, I don't see myself ranking Freeman ahead of them. So no, he'll be outside the top 36. He may even be outside the top 48 because at some point I'll have to start taking pitchers.
All right, next up we have Nolan McLean, who had a mixed outing here at the Cubs, 5 1/3 innings, but allowed 5 runs. Also had 11 strikeouts, which is a season high, a career high. First time with more than 8 strikeouts here for Nolan McLean. He also had a huge lead, so perhaps he was just, filling up the zone, and that's, how he wound up giving up 3 homers in this one. But through 8 starts, he has a 2.06 ERA, 104 WHIP, 10.7 K per 9, tons of ground balls. Over under 99.5 for Nolan McLean. Is he a top 100 pick next season?
I think over, which means a higher number, right? Like it's
like he's gonna go.
He's being drafted later because over sounds better, but it's actually, I'm saying he's going to be worse than pick 99.5. So that would come out to round 9 in a 12-team league. I always have to do that math in my head because I don't know, for some reason, just like a 3-digit number, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that in real time. But I can think in terms of rounds. I understand why we do the overall number because not all leagues are the same size, but I tend to think in terms of rounds. So that'd be round 9. And
that doesn't sound so bad though.
But where's he going to rank? He's probably going to rank around 40th for me.
Yeah, so then that wouldn't be a top 100 pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
SP 40, that would probably be closer to somewhere between 125 and 150, I think.
Yeah, that's probably where I'm going to have McLean, who he ended up having a great ground ball rate. It had gone down from the ridiculous 70% rate where it started, which makes sense because among qualifiers, the leader is Jose Soriano, and his is more like 65. So over 70 is just ridiculous. But he looked good. Obviously, the control was a little iffy at times, as we saw in the minors as well. And so it's not like I'm trying to suppress Nolan McLean's ranking by putting him around 40th at starting pitcher. I just think there are enough exciting options that are more proven to bump him down that far. And I'll be able to say that with more authority once I get to ranking starting pitchers. But yeah, I like, obviously Kyle Bradish is going to have to be over him. And I don't know. I think it's going to be around 40, maybe more like 36, but it's going to be, I don't think he's going to quite crack the top 100 for me.
Next up is somebody I actually have no idea where he's going to go. So I'm just going to throw a number out there and we can talk about it. Byron Buxton hit 2 more home runs, had 4 RBI. Both homers were hit over 110 miles per hour off the bat. He's up to 34 homers, 96 runs scored, 24 steals, an 879 OPS in 124 games this season for Byron Buxton. Over under 74.5, Scott. Is I guess 75.5. Is he a top 75 player drafted next season?
Man, these are hard.
Just for some reference, I have NFBC ADP from before this season pulled up. Brenton Doyle's ADP was 71.2.
Yeah.
And he went, like 2030 last year? Byron Buxton has
been better than that.
34 homers and 24 steals. But also an extensive injury history, so I have no idea.
Right. The only reason he wouldn't go that high is because people are biased against Byron Buxton, and I think for good reason. But people also tend to look at the latest thing that happened and are willing to overlook basically everything that came before then. And what just happened for Byron Buxton was a combined 60 homers and steals, roughly, which is it was an incredible season for Byron Buxton. I mean, he basically performed like a top 10 outfielder. And so to get him in round 7, that's what it would come out to in a 12-team league. I think I'd say a little over for Byron Buxton, that 75.5. I'm sorry, under a little earlier, under. Maybe not in points leagues, but in 5x5 scoring, yes.
I lean over. I think he's going to go a little bit later than that. I could see him being closer to 100, maybe just because people are so scared off by the injuries. And again, I get it. It's an extensive injury history for Buxton, but he looked healthy this year, and whatever they did last offseason, I hope they do it again this offseason too.
Are you going to take Buxton over Jackson Merrill, who Chris wants to put in the top 15, he revealed yesterday, among outfielders? Because I think I would.
I don't know. My gut reaction is to take Merrill just because he's so much younger, but I don't know if that's the right answer. I have no idea.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, Buxton was infinitely more productive this season than Jackson Merrill, but I guess you can't say completely the opposite, because Buxton was still okay last year when he played, but I mean Jackson Merrill we were just drafting in second, third round, right? So I don't want to completely bury him either. Yeah, I think Merrill will go higher. If I set this 70 pick 75, I think Buxton will probably go a little bit past that. I think Merrill will probably be like a round 5 or 6 player, like a top 60 pick.
Okay.
But that's just my way too early.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think Byron Buxton and George Springer are both going to be so hard to rank.
Well, you know what?
They were.
George Springer. George Springer's up next. So let's talk about it. George Springer hit his 31st home run and hitting 303. He has 102 runs scored, 16 steals, and 943 OPS. This one I put a little bit lower because Springer is much older, obviously. I mean, this really came out of nowhere. At least Buxton, we've seen it, I guess, more recently. Springer really looked like he was on the downturn of his career. So 124.5. That's where I set the over under for Springer. Is he a top 125 pick, basically a top 10 round player in a 12-team league?
Say that again.
So top 125 pick and basically a top 10. That's like the 10, 11, 10, right around there.
Yeah, I think you set that over under high enough that I'm willing to go lower on it.
Okay.
Because 120, it's hard to remember because Jurix and Profar had that wrist injury in spring training that pushed him down further. I think that's about where I was ranking him, though, coming into this year. And it seemed way too late for him. And I think there are a lot of the same uncertainties for George Springer. It's a similar situation where it's like nobody quite buys it at face value, but he was so productive. He was one of the very best outfielders the year before. And it's like, well, once you get outside pick 100, you're taking on a lot of risk with any player, it feels like. So at least, there's that elite potential with Springer that he just showed.
Let's talk about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who had another great start. This one at the D-backs, 6 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts, had 16 whiffs on 94 pitches. He has allowed 1 earned run or fewer in 5 straight. And during that stretch, a .79 ERA, .65 whip, 44 strikeouts over 34 innings with a 17% swinging strike rate. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the number is 24.5, Scott. Over under, right at that 2-3 turn for Yamamoto.
Over. Yeah, I don't have any pitcher other than Skubal, Crochet, Skeens in my top 24. And you're saying, okay, well, this is more like 25. But even then, I mean, I don't know. I don't know for sure where Yamamoto is going to rank beyond those top 3. Probably like 5th or 6th, I would guess. But there are a lot of good hitters being bumped to round 3. So even if you set the number at 36.5 rather than the 24.5, I might say over for Yamamoto.
So that's where you're going to rank him, right? I think in terms of ADP, I could see this being under. I could see Yamamoto going in round 2. Whether or not I would rank him or draft him there, I think Skubal, Skeens, and Crochet will go at the 1-2 turn, and then we'll probably see Yamamoto, Chris Sale, and Logan Gilbert, someone else like that, probably around the 2-3 turn. But I think it's going to be right around there. So you get about a round of value compared to where the top tier pitchers go.
I mean, that's going to mean bumping out. Let's see. The end of round 2 for me is Vladimir Guerrero, Jazz Chisholm, Trea Turner, Jackson Churio, Gunnar Henderson. You think somebody's taking Yamamoto over any of them?
Those are some great names.
Yeah.
I could see. Maybe Gunnar falls a little bit. Maybe Trea Turner falls a little bit, ending the year hurt, 1 year older. And then you kind of squeak some of those pitchers in there. But it's going to be close. I think there'll be like late round 2, early round 3 names there. Yamamoto, Gilbert, and Chris Sale, probably in some order. Carlos Rodon is next up. He picked up his 18th win, which is tied for second with Garrett Crochet. 6 innings, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts here against the White Sox. And he has turned in 6 straight quality starts, has allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in 10 straight. And he's just been rock solid. 3.09 ERA, 105 whip this season, over a strikeout per inning. Over under 74.5, 75.5. Carlos Rodon, is he a top 75 player for next season?
I think I'm going to go a little over on that.
Okay.
But I'm non-committal at this point where I'm going to have him among starting pitchers. So that is obviously going to help to drive that. I think he's going to be around 20th, between like 20th and 25th. And I'm saying through 30, probably we'll just be 3 pitchers into my starting pitcher rankings. So over the next 45 picks, how many are we going to see go? And yeah, I mean, maybe people will go after starting pitcher more aggressively because you're asking where he will go, not where I will rank him. But I don't think I'm that far from the consensus normally on these things. So I think he's going to be more like Rodon's going to be more like that 85 to 100 range rather than 75th.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there too. Because again, I'm looking at preseason ADP, and the SP20 was Bryce Miller, and his ADP was 88.6. So that's exactly the range that you were just talking about there for Carlos Rodon. Next up, we have Riley Green, who it is 36th home run of the season. He has 111 RBI, 262 batting average, 817 OPS. The number here, Scott, is 49.5. Will Riley Green be a top 50 player drafted next season?
Yeah, I think so. So I'll take the under a little bit there. Maybe a closer call in points leagues because his strikeout rate is so high and he's not a big walker. But for Roto, he's going to be certainly a top 20 outfielder, maybe even top 15.
Yeah. And last name here is Eugenio Suarez, who hit his 49th home run. That ties his career high. Last 8 games, he's picking things back up. He has 12 hits, 4 homers, 8 runs, 8 RBI during that time. Also 117 RBI and 841 OPS for Suarez this season. Same number for Green, 49.5. Top 50 player for Eugenio Suarez.
A lot older than Green.
Yeah.
But plays a weaker position. He's my 6th third baseman is Suarez.
It honestly might depend on the landing spot.
It might, because he has hit, he's homered in back-to-back games there, but overall he's hit very poorly in Seattle and has a history of his numbers being suppressed there. So he's hitting the free agent market as Suarez. I think just getting out of Seattle, no matter where he goes, would be good. But some destinations would be better than others. He's pretty old, like I said, so you got to be wary of decline there. But will he get in the top 50? I think just barely. I'll take the under there on Suarez. And I do want to note, since we're bringing him up, you just mentioned he's at 49 home runs now. If Eugenio Suarez hits one more home run, gets to 50, it'll be the first time in Major League history that 5 players have reached the 50 homer threshold in a season.
I also heard on the Mariners broadcast, if he hits 50, then it'll be the first teammates to have 50 plus home runs, since they said the last pair to do it was in Pinstripe. So I would imagine it's some kind of legendary, whatever, Yankee.
Maris and Mantle, probably.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that hasn't been done in a while. So Suarez, one more homer, and we're making some history here.
Not that Suarez hit them all with the Mariners, but
right. But
so it's kind of an asterisk there. But yeah, that's now, people think of the steroids era, these big home run hitters. There weren't 5 players hitting 50 plus homers in a season there. Apparently not. Apparently that never happened. And so is the ball juiced? What's going on? Are home runs way up this year? Not really. Overall home runs very similar to last year. 2021 and 2023 both had a lot more home runs than 2025 has had. Apart from those hypothetical 5 hitters with 50 plus homers, there will only be 2 others with 40 plus homers. So there's a pretty big drop off after that group of 5. But it is historic if it does happen, if Suarez hits one more home run.
Yeah, you were spot on there. It was Mantle and Maris were the last, and probably only teammates. No, there was, I don't know. I don't know how to look this up, but they were the last to do it.
Chris would find it in like 4 seconds.
He absolutely would. Let's take our final break. When we return, some young bats that we haven't talked enough about. We'll get into that right after this.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime!
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Young bats that we haven't talked enough about. Joe Adell, just the quietest 37 home run season of all time. Lower batting average, but also has 97 RBI. Expected stats look better. I wanted to lump him in with another outfielder here. Andy Pages, another one, just quietly a great season here. Hit his 27th homer. He also has 276 batting average, 85 RBI, 14 steals. So a pretty well-rounded skill set there for Andy Pages. Scott, what do you think about these two? Can you see yourself being invested or excited about Joe Adell or Andy Pages for next season?
Well, they're both guys who hardly walk at all. And I am always a little reluctant to invest in those guys because when things go wrong for them, they tend to go really, really wrong. So I don't think I'm going to be among the most eager to draft them. I don't think I'm going to rank them as high as maybe the consensus, but I don't see any huge red flags either that make me predict there's going to be a big drop off for them, just that they're more vulnerable to that because of their profile. Yeah, I will note, and we've noted it before, Andy Pages, for as much power as he's delivered this year, the exit velocities are a little lacking, but he's basically sustained it all season. Was kind of slumping there after the All-Star break, but has come roaring back here in September. And I think, especially given the advantages that come with batting in the Dodgers lineup, Andy Pages is somebody who should be drafted even in 3 outfielder leagues next year. I'm saying this off the cuff, and once I actually start lining up names, he may get pushed out just because of how many options there are in the outfield. But that's my initial read on it.
Something we don't talk about much is defense, and Andy Pages grades out as a tremendous fielder too. So I think that's going to keep him on the field quite consistently and in one of, if not the best lineup in all of baseball. So obviously has that playing in his favor, does Andy Pages. Brett Baty went 2 for 4 with his 18th homer, 3 RBI. The home run came off a lefty here in Shota Imanaga. So perhaps the Mets should have just been playing Brett Baty against lefties and just against everybody all season long. Last 38 games, he's hitting .315, 7 homers, 21 runs, 3 steals, and OPS over 850. Hits the ball really hard. Still too many ground balls, but I think this is a pretty impressive showing here for Brett Baty, Scott. I wonder, he's obviously young enough to take another step, but I think that would include the Mets giving him everyday playing time and kind of trusting him to do that. So I don't know if they'll do that, but I think that there's another level that Brett Baty can even get to next season.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Mets do with their infield this offseason, because they, well, you know what? Actually, Jeff McNeil is under contract for 1 more year. I thought it was a team option. The team option is not till 2027, the following year. So McNeil should be back, and that'll make it crowded. So lately what they've been doing is they've been starting Brett Baty at third base. I believe he started 7 of the last 8 there. And they've been starting Mark Vientos more at DH. But between the two, Vientos is beginning less of the playing time. I currently rank Vientos ahead of Baty for next year. I think they're back-to-back in my third base rankings. I'm kind of liking Baty's profile more. I've always been an optimist with Baty, and so there's some element of confirmation bias maybe at play there, but I think he's good, and I think he's shown it finally over these last 2 months, and I think he's positioned himself well to see an increase of playing time next year, while Vientos really disappointing this year. Now, maybe DH will remain available so that both of them can play near every day, but it's the Mets. They tend to make a lot of moves in the offseason, so it remains to be seen.
And 2 Orioles bats here. Dylan Beavers went 1 for 4 with a walk and his 4th home run. Batting average is a little bit lower, but a .389 on base percentage so far across his first 32 games. That's pretty impressive there. I could see Beavers being a kind of late round sleeper in a points league setting or OBP type league for next year. And Kobe Mayo, just what do we make of Kobe Mayo at this point? He hit his 10th home run, but he's pretty much been an everyday player for months now, and he hasn't done anything with it. He's hitting .216, 10 homers, 676 OPS. Another one that's still really young, so I don't want to just write him off, Scott, but we were begging the Orioles to give Kobe Mayo playing time. They've done it, and it hasn't really worked.
It's happened with a lot of the Orioles' big hitting prospects. You noticed? I mean, Gunnar Henderson wasn't a particularly high draft pick, considered this can't miss guy entering the minor leagues. So they clearly turned Gunnar Henderson into something, because Gunnar Henderson has been the big success story of that development system. But most of the others, I mean, including Rushman now, have really belly flopped here. And Kobe Mayo is another example. I will point out that he's batting .308 in September. This was his 4th home run for the month. So .308, 4 home runs in a month is pretty good. Still striking out 30% of the time for September. And so I'm not going to sit here and say Kobe Mayo is going to be a trendy breakout candidate for next year. I think in most leagues, he's not going to be drafted at all. But some of those deeper roto leagues, maybe he'll get a late round flyer. They've at least prioritized playing him during this lost season to see what he can do. And I'm sure the Orioles have designs on competing next year, and maybe they'll decide they need to upgrade from Kobe Mayo. I don't know. But if they don't, if he has a regular lineup spotter is expected to, then it will be one of those end of the draft. I haven't filled my corner infield spot yet. Let's throw a pick at him and just hope for the best.
2 other things that we haven't talked much about, but Nick Kurtz, 3 for 5 with a double dong, 3 RBI, finishing his season in style. I noticed his numbers against lefties are pretty bad. 194 batting average, 673 OPS. Does have 8 home runs against lefties, but just for some perspective here, his OPS against right-handed pitching is 1162. So nearly 500 points higher than how he's performed against lefties. Scott, the overall numbers are still amazing, and I don't want to take anything away from Nick Kurtz, but do these numbers against lefties give you any pause for next season?
No, not really. I mostly worry about them if it's going to cost the player playing time, and I think Kurtz is well beyond that. I think a lot of times you see young left-handed hitters especially have these struggles against lefties early in their career. And a lot of times teams don't have the patience to let them work through it, but the A's have shown they're absolutely going to do that with Kurtz. So it doesn't really bother me. The splits there, the strikeout rate does bother me, but I'm kind of thinking we shouldn't borrow trouble with Nick Kurtz because he sped through the minors in just 33 games, killing it at every level. He comes to the majors, struggles for about 3 weeks at a time when hitters especially are having a hard time making that transition to the majors. Kurtz made it in 3 weeks, and ever since then, he has looked like one of the best hitters in the majors. So I don't want to nitpick, like that he kind of has earned the benefit of the doubt, I feel like, which maybe that's bold to say for a rookie, but he's not an ordinary rookie, given how quickly he mastered the minors. And I mean, quickly as in immediately, to the point, like after just a couple months, they were like, okay, we can't hold this guy back. We have to move Tyler. We have to make Tyler Soderstrom change positions again to make sure we get Nick Kurtz up, and he's absolutely delivered on that. I wanted to mention this for Kobe Mayo, getting back to him for a second. He has yet to hit a ball 110 miles per hour in the majors. His average exit velocity is below 88 miles per hour.
Seems not great for a power hitter.
That's like that's his whole game, is power hitting.
Yeah.
So that is even beyond the strikeout rate, which I mentioned. That's concerning. If I were the Orioles and I was looking to compete next year, I don't know that I'd feel comfortable going in with Mayo having an everyday role.
No. Other name here is Seiya Suzuki, who went 2 for 4 with a double dong, 4 RBI, his first homer since August 6th. What happened to Seiya Suzuki in the second half? 207 batting average, 4 homers, a 636 OPS after just a tremendous first half. His batted ball quality just really, really came down from the first half to the second half. That's the biggest thing that I could see. Scott, anything else that stands out in Suzuki's pretty terrible second half? And will that deter you from drafting him or targeting him next season?
Well, to answer your second question first, which is generally how it goes, No, I don't think I'm going to be deterred from drafting him next year. It was a bad second half. There's no way around it. He was hitting the ball a couple miles per hour less, which I think you mentioned, lower pull rate as well, but the strikeout rate was actually down. So it wasn't like wholesale struggles. He obviously had been great for a year and a half before then, is still young enough that you don't presume this is decline. I think it's just variance. I think it's just baseball variance, and we shouldn't throw out the, I don't know if throw out the baby with the bathwater applies here, but we shouldn't overreact.
All right, let's preview the weekend, Scott, for those still playing for something, still in daily lineup leagues or making ads, setting lineups, whatever it might be. And we will do to stream or not to stream a little bit earlier than usual. Reminder that a lot of this can still change. There are still rotations that are not set yet. Things can be moved around. Pitchers might only go 3 or 4 innings, so it's kind of a crapshoot, but we'll try our best. On Friday, the top names here: Emmett Sheehan at the Mariners. Will Warren is home against the Orioles. Brandon Sproat at the Marlins. Cade Cavalli against the White Sox. Jason Alexander at the Angels. Slade Ciccone against the Skeleton Rangers lineup. And Kyle Harrison against the Tigers.
Skeleton Rangers. Spooky.
No, it is spooky season, Scott. We're approaching.
Sheehan was originally going to start the last game of the season, but
MLB.com has him on Friday.
In any case, you obviously have to start him. I don't even think it matters too much what the matchup is. He just dominated the Phillies last time out. Now he's facing the Mariners, who've already clinched the division. Are they still playing for seeding, the Mariners? Which is pretty important because 2 teams can earn a bye.
I'm not. Probably, I would think.
Well, in any case, you got to start Sheehan. The best choices apart from him to stream on this list of names that you provided me: Brandon Sproat at the Marlins, Cade Cavalli against the White Sox. Though if you're looking to protect whip especially, I would not do either.
Yeah, I think the Mariners are locked in as one of the top 2 seeds, so I don't think they're still playing for seeding.
Much of anything. Yeah.
Yeah, because the AL Central teams can't catch them, and yeah, those are the only other teams that can kind of move past them. So. All right. So, yeah, for Friday, I would go with I didn't hear who you said. I'm sorry. But I would say Sheehan, probably Warren, and then Sproat, I think.
Okay.
Who'd you say?
I said Sproat Cavalli, but not with much enthusiasm for either.
All right. And on Saturday, we have Justin Verlander, who gets the Rockies in San Francisco. Trea Savage against the Rays. Connolly Early against the Tigers, Bubba Chandler at the Braves, Eduardo Rodriguez at the Padres, Michael Wacha at the Athletics.
Well, this is a fun group. Verlander against the Rockies. Hopefully that'll go better than against the Cardinals. Trea Savage against the Rays. I might even do Connolly Early ahead of Savage. And I'd be pretty excited to start all 3. All 3 were on my sleepers pitchers list for the week. So I'd be happy to stream them Saturday unless you're just totally risk averse.
Yeah, I like those 3 as well. Can you, I've been getting questions, people asking whether or not to use Bubba Chandler at the Braves. It seems risky. He had 1 blow-up start. He does give up hard contact. It feels like their lineup is coming around a little bit.
Yeah.
Would you use Chandler at the Braves?
They just had a 10-game winning streak snapped. So I'd be a little fearful of that. If you're chasing and you just need to throw everything at a wall, then I think Chandler at the Braves is the best you can hope for in that scenario. But otherwise, I'd shy away from it.
And then on Sunday, we have Simeon Woods Richardson at the Phillies, Shane Smith at the Nationals, Brendan Pfaadt at the Padres, Clayton Kershaw at the Mariners, Edward Cabrera against the Mets, and Johan Oviedo at the Braves. There are so many TBDs listed for Sunday, so there's just not much to choose from right now.
Yeah, Shane Smith seems pretty safe, though the whip might be high. Could give you a nice strikeout total, though. He's been doing pretty well with those recently. And the Nationals offense is just terrible right now. I don't really like anyone else.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, Fott's been good his last couple outings, but I don't trust it.
No. Edward Cabrera gave up 3 homers in his return. The Mets lineup is awesome.
Yeah, I can't bring myself to recommend anyone but Shane Smith Sunday, at least among the options we know now. And there are probably some there are probably some higher end pitchers going Sunday that just don't meet aren't available enough for you to mention them here. Like I'm seeing Kyle Bradish looks like he's going to go Sunday at the Yankees. That would be great. Ian Seymour, really? He just appeared in relief. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, MLB has him listed, but didn't Kevin Cash say that Seymour was going to pitch out of the bullpen? So I don't know.
He did already this week, so I don't know. Anything goes this final week.
True.
So you just kind of got to take it day by day. Let's see. Brady Singer at the Brewers. That's going to be a skeleton crew, right? I think I like Singer at the Brewers more than anyone you listed Sunday as a potential streamer. And I know why you didn't miss Singer. He's too rostered, obviously. I'm just trying to give people more options if they need them.
All right, and the best hitter matchups for this weekend. Usually Scott does this, so I had the pleasure of trying to figure it out myself. But the Astros are at the Angels. The Giants are home against Rocky pitching. The Cubs are facing the Cardinals. The Nationals face the White Sox. The White Sox are at the Nationals. And the Royals are at the Athletics. So by my estimation, some of the those are the best team hitting matchups for this week. So hitters you can look at to add for the weekend: Isak Paredes, lots of names that Scott mentioned before the week, but Dylan Cruz, Jung-Hoo Lee, Matt Shaw, Dalen Lyle, Josh Bell, Moises Ballesteros, and Carter Jensen. So there you have it. Good luck to anybody still competing for a championship out there. Let us know how it goes. If you win, send us a tweet, send us an email, let us know about it. Scott, let's wrap up with some leftovers here. 2 pitchers who went in opposite directions here on Thursday. Framber Valdez bounced back with a great start at the Athletics, 7 innings of 1-run ball with 10 strikeouts. His previous 9 starts before this one, 6.71 ERA and a 1.59 whip. Parker Messick struggled against the Tigers, 5 innings, 4 runs allowed, 3 homers allowed. In his first 6 starts, he gave up 1 home run total. In his 7th start, he gave up 3 home runs. So just the way we predicted it. What do you think about Parker Messick and Framber Valdez, their final starts of the year?
Well, I had Messick as a pitcher to stream, so that's unfortunate. He did enter with a 49% ground ball rate, and as you mentioned, just the 1 home run between all of the starts is probably due for some, but I don't think it's going to be a long-standing issue for Messick since he's such a good ground ball guy. But yeah, obviously wasn't much help here the final week of the season. And then Framber Valdez turned around a pretty miserable 2-month trend. 6.71 ERA, 1.59 whip in his previous 9 starts. Felt too risky, but he's a good pitcher. He showed why. 45% is how often he used his curveball. It was responsible for 13 of his 17 swinging strikes. And the last time Framber Valdez threw even 40% curveballs was way back at the end of July, July 28th. And that incidentally was also his last good start. The last time he threw more than 40% curveballs, his last good start, end of July, 12 strikeouts and 6 1-run innings against the Nationals. The last time he threw as many as 45% curveballs as he did here on Thursday was also a double-digit strikeout effort early June. So it's pretty clear when Framber Valdez has that curveball working, he is as ace-like as anybody, but it seems like it comes and goes. And so I don't think it's just a usage thing. I think the usage is influenced by how the pitch is working for him, would be my guess. And it was clearly working for him in this one. I don't know if the Astros are still in the mix for the postseason. I don't know if they're going to make it, but if this is the last time we see Framber Valdez in 2025, he's entering free agency. I think he left on a high note. I think we'll still feel pretty good about him going into 2026.
All right. Can you see any of these three pitchers mattering in 2026? Bailey Ober, Tyler Mahle, and Michael Lorenzen. They all had good starts here on Thursday. Will any of those pitchers matter, Scott? What do you think?
Not Lorenzen. He never does.
Right.
Mahle will certainly be drafted in every league. Will he be drafted too high based on his 2.18 ERA? There's a good chance of that, but he came back from injury and had 2 solid, if short, starts. So I think Tyler Mahle is going to get drafted. Bailey Ober, he could bounce back. This year was a departure from the norm for Ober. And so, there were some injuries, there were some fluctuations in velocity, there were some mechanical issues. He can still get back on track, but I don't think he's going to be more than a late round flyer in standard size leagues, just to, throwing a Hail Mary there in the hopes that he does bounce back.
All right, stud hitters being studs. Shohei Ohtani hit his 54th home run of the season, and in September, he has 9 homers and an OPS up around 1,200. Francisco Lindor, 30th home run. He gets to 30-30 for the second time in his career. He has been great since the start of August. Bobby Witt Jr., 4 for 5 with 2 doubles, 2 runs scored. Pretty much locked in as a top 3, I would say, in most leagues, top 3 pick for next season.
Roto. Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean, even in Roto, I think you can make the case for Soto at 3.
True.
So I would say locked in as a top 4 for Roto, and few spots behind that in points. But I'll have Witt 3rd for Roto, I think, behind Judge and Ohtani.
Some other hitting leftovers. Vinny P.
Baby.
Hit another one, his 32nd home run. He has 17 home runs in the second half. His slug from the first to the second half went from 437 to 547. So big jump there for Vinny P. Jose Altuve, 2 for 3 with a walk, double, 2 runs, 2 RBI, hitting much better over the last week or so. Christian Walker hit his 24th home run, 3 RBI, but he's been a little bit better in the second half, but just still not great. And, looks like age has caught up to Christian Walker this season. Shea Langoliers, back-to-back 4-hit games for him. He went 4 for 5 with a double and a run scored. And Dalton Varsho hit a clutch grand slam, his 20th home run of the season. He's up to an 845 OPS in just 68 games. He has a 559 slug, Dalton Varsho. His previous high before this year was 443. So whatever the Blue Jays did this offseason, Scott, whatever's in the water in Toronto between Springer and Varsho, do it again next year, please. Well, not to my Yankees, but for fantasy, yes.
Yeah, Varsho's going to be a fun one for next year. Obviously, injury-plagued year and some in and out of the lineup even when he was healthy. But his final 44 games, basically his second half, 257 batting average, 12 homers, 883 OPS. And that's with a jump in 3 miles per hour in exit velocity overall, not just in that second half. Overall, average exit velocity and max exit velocity for Varsho, 3 miles per hour higher. That is a big increase for somebody who's been around as long as he has. And, I think there will be some, I don't know if sleeper is going to be the right designation for him, but I think I think he's going to be somebody who people are saying is underdrafted.
All right, the call to the bullpen for the Reds. Emilio Pagan got the 9th inning with a 1-run lead. He picked up his 30th save, and he owes Noelvi Marte a huge hug and thank you, because Noelvi Marte robbed what would have been a game-tying home run in that game. He hasn't played right field very much, but he's starting to learn a little bit, and he made a huge play there to preserve the lead for the Reds. For the Phillies, I guess they wanted to give Duran the night off. He blew a save on Tuesday, so they went with David Robertson, who picked up his second save of the year. For the Yankees, David Bednar got the ninth inning with a 2-run lead. He struck out one for his 26th save. And for the Mets, Edwin Diaz got the ninth with a 3-run lead. He picked up his 28th save of the year. And that's it, Scott. The regular season, at least here on Fantasy Baseball Today, is over. Good luck to everyone still competing for championships. Good luck to the teams out there trying to make the playoffs, right? For all the fans still holding on here, the Mets, the Reds, what are the Yankees and Blue Jays going to do? But yes, just want to say thank you again. A big thank you to everyone who's stuck with us all year. Yeah, people that are still here in the YouTube chat and supporting us and hanging out and stuff. We appreciate all the support all season long, and we're still going to be here in the off season, but that's it for the regular season. We do appreciate it. We're going to wrap there. For Scott, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning in to Fantasy Baseball Today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. And we will be back again next week, Monday night, Tuesday morning. Bye-bye.